In this very important video, I want to talk about removing Islam. I want to talk about banning religion. Now, I as a Christian believe that my religion is fine and should stay because of what it teaches. Which I think is superior to any other religious teaching. In terms of morality, in terms of simplicity, in terms of understanding, it's quite easy to understand. In terms of everything in every aspect, I think Christianity is fine. But I want to talk about how to destroy every other religion in the world, and how to easily do so. And I believe all it takes in reality is a little bit of time. But I want to give some specifics on this. And my God, would I make a great CIA agent? I would make a great like CIA director. I would be perfect. I would be perfect for being like a CIA director. Considering my wishes and goals, and I think my quite genius strategic ideas. But when it comes to religion, I think the best way to get rid of, to remove religion, except Christianity, which I see it as more than religion, I see it as the truth. Besides Christianity, and you might say I'm a hypocrite, but whatever, I don't really care. I think the best way to remove religion is with time. If you look at China and you look at how China has completely banned religions, you look at how they've put an extreme, very extreme oppression on the Muslims. You look at how they treat the Uyghur Muslims in China. That is a great way. That's a great example of how to thin out and get rid of a unwanted, undesirable religion in your country. There are some human rights violations that go on there. We could do without those. But if you look at how China bans books from coming in, how they remove mosques and temples and churches, they're very effective. China is just about the most effective country at removing religion. They're extremely successful at doing so. Now they can't weed out everything. People and books and teachings are always gonna get through. But China does a very good job at distorting the religion. And from what I've studied, is time is just about the best way to heal the world, to rid the world of unwanted diseases and unwanted teachings and so on. And and what I've found is that factories that mass produce modified religious books are very useful. If you start producing books that are heavily modified very quickly, then obviously people will catch on and try to shut down said factories, and refuse to buy those books and read them. But if you very slowly tweak, one word at a time, in like the Quran or whatever, you tweak like one little word here and there at a time. Use a word with a similar definition. You just tweak it very slowly over time. Just tweak it little bit by bit. That's a great way of getting rid of a religion completely. Changing the belief system completely. If let's say every 10 years, every decade, you remove or change a word. I would say maybe changing a few words, a few definitions. Like changing one definition every year, and then every 10 years removing a word completely. Over the span of a century, you're removing 10 words. Removing 100 or more words. Changing the definitions. of like 100 words over a century, I think could be extremely detrimental to changing a religion or destroying it completely. So yeah, you can. I think that banning the books is a good idea, but modifying them in factories is useful too. And one way of ensuring that every location where certain religious books are created, one way of stopping them from creating, like let's say the Quran, and putting in words you don't want. The best way of doing this is by buying the companies and the corporations that mass produce these books. You buy the companies and corporations. You buy the land, you pay people to do bad things. You look at George Soros. I don't care what anyone says. I think that George Soros does these things. I think that he pays people to go out and protest and to riot and stuff. In my opinion, I believe that George Soros, the socialist, does these things, and I think he's quite successful at it. If you look at what's changed in America and in Europe, you see how his funding, pouring billions of dollars into socialism and other things, has been quite successful over the years. Very slowly though, but I believe that if you buy up more land and you send in decoys, you send in people pretending to be Muslim, and you have them do bad things, like 9/11 for instance. How the CIA funded, Osama bin Laden so that he could do 9/11, and he planned other attacks, but I think he was taking things too far maybe, and so that's why the CIA had him killed eventually. They ran into a lot of trouble with that, but I feel like he took things a little too far. But it was quite a brilliant idea, funding the enemy, the CIA funding Osama bin Laden, because it led to him doing very violent and destructive, extreme things. And and so sometimes giving the enemy a little too much power in the wrong places at the wrong times is can lead to great successes. And I think if we allow certain groups in the Middle East, certain Muslim groups to gain too much power, they'll get a little too irresponsible and reckless with it, and then they'll start murdering and raping people, and then it will cause massive destabilization and distrust in Islam and in the Quran. And so, as bad as those things are, that's a successful way of removing a religion, by giving the enemy enough power in small areas to do a little damage. And but you want to have safety measures. You want to have security protocols in place in case they take things a little too far, But also monitoring. I think that's quite useful. The monitoring of different religious people and religious groups, I find to be quite useful. I find to be quite successful. If you look at China and its monitoring of the Uyghur people, you can see how successful they are at stopping any sort of Uyghur rebel groups, any uprisings. So security surveillance is a great thing, and also the warping. Though this is kind of immoral in my opinion to a big degree. But I mean, if you want to remove a religion, a very successful way of doing so is by warping different religious sectors and stuff. For instance, let's say there's a mosque in New York, and let's say the CIA fabricates, they fake some information that says that a few of the people there were plotting another 9/11 or some mass bombing with pressure cookers or something. Basically, they could just go in and arrest them and shut down the whole mosque. And this is a very effective way of removing a religion, which is by targeting groups and people and making false claims about them. And it works like a charm. It works almost every time, especially in places. You only want to do this in places where there is distrust and negative feelings towards particular groups, which you can say it's a stereotyping and it's a human right violation. But China does this all the time and they get away with it. And so yeah, if you have mass surveillance set up and you fabricate a bunch of information, you can basically just designate anyone a terrorist, a potential threat, and then target the whole group around said individual or individuals as a threat, and arrest them and shut down their temples, their mosques, their religious sites, whatever they may be. So yeah, and when you combine all those things, changing the words in their books over time, using mass surveillance to spy on them and know which people are part of the group, making false claims against them, giving them the ability to create weapons and rise in power and cause violence, like the mass stabbings in the UK. You can give them a bad look, just give them a bad look, pretty much, and the false claims thing, and also buying up different companies and corporations that may fund the mosques and fund the production of the books so that you can change things. That's quite important. Buying the land, though, is a huge deal as well. Like when China took over parts of what was once, I think, Mongolia, if I'm correct, and basically took the Uyghur people and tried to convert them to Han Chinese or eradicate them. They've been quite successful at this by buying up the land where the Muslims once had their own land. And so buying up land can be quite useful. It can be quite successful. Now, this can typically, like the Chinese will oppress the Uyghurs, then the Uyghurs will fight back. Some of them will do extreme things, and then they can make the excuse that the Uyghurs are dangerous and then wipe them all out. And I think they've been quite successful at this, but it has led to some dissent in other parts of the world, where other Muslim groups might, plan terrorist attacks in China because of the Uyghur oppression. So you have to be careful about information getting out, which is why China builds these concentration camp facilities so that satellites and drones can't get any footage. That's why a lot of people don't make it out of there. So it is kind of systematic. It's kind of a systematic holocaust in China that I don't agree with. China takes things a little too far sometimes, and in the wrong ways that end up backfiring. But I think that there are some great ways of getting rid of an unwanted religion very easily. It's never quick though. Getting rid of a religion is never a quick and easy thing. But thanks to AI technology, that's another great thing. Thanks to AI tech, we can modify videos and audio and make people look like terrorists or whatever. You could basically just plot anything against anyone now with AI technology, and with quantum AI, you could develop some very well written story. You could create any false story. Which there's this guy named Yuval Noah Harari. He's a Jewish guy in Israel that talks about rewriting stories and making fake religions, and he talks about the power of storytelling. And he mentions a lot about all this and how AI can create new religions and destroy religions. And I found that to be quite interesting as well. Creating a religion or a new version of a religion in order to destroy the old version. I found that to be quite brilliant. Using quantum AI, quantum supremacy AI, to create an extremely high IQ, super critical thinking story. You could use like quantum AI to create an advanced android that appears as a prophet, as like a future prophet Muhammad type character, and you could create like some fake story and make some elaborate plan to make it appear as if the new Muslim era is occurring, and the raptures come, the end times are here, and you could basically use that on the Muslims' behalf to fake a coming of Allah or something, the Hadi or the Abaj or whatever the guy's name is, the false prophet with one eye or whatever, the one-eyed Antichrist in the Quran. You could basically create a fake little elaborate plan. Well, not little; it would be massive. But you could create a big story and plan different things out very well, and sort of like overwrite the old chapters of the Quran, and twist the Quran by using an advanced quantum supremacy computing android to manipulate the Muslims or the Buddhists or the Mormons or whatever, or Satanists or atheists. You could create really advanced technology using quantum AI and create very well written, very intelligent stories that could manipulate billions, and you could use that to crush religions and destroy them, or create new ideologies on top of old religions. That's what Muhammad did. I believe Muhammad was a real character, a false prophet that used the Bible. I believe that Muhammad, from the Quran, in case you don't know who he is, he was a religious character, a religious teacher who claimed to be given visions and orders by God to do things. Sort of like Jesus, but a fake, shittier version of Jesus. And basically, Muhammad, where was I going with this? Muhammad used different characters and stories from the Old and New Testament of the Bible, the one with Jesus in it. Muhammad used parts of the Jesus Bible in order to create his own religion, the Quran, create his own story. And if we could do that again with quantum supremacy AI and androids and creating very elaborate plans and stories and using different religious groups against each other, we could create a new story, a new Quran, and very slowly change it or completely destroy it, by creating a fake story, a fake plan that has nothing to actually do with the Quran at all in reality. Or of course, as I said before, using different versions of religious groups against each other. You have like the Islamic State, and then you have what is it? The Jihad. I think it's called the Jihad. I forget what they're called. What are they called? You have the Islamic State, ISIS, and you also have the Taliban. You can use different versions of religious groups against each other to make them fight and kill each other. And once they thin each other's numbers out by funding both of their groups, or funding whichever one is less violent and problematic, you fund the Taliban, give them a bunch of money, like what the CIA does, and the Department of Defense, Pentagon, whatever. You give the Taliban a bunch of money, you give them a lot of land and power, allow them to do what they want, and then you can pretty much get the Taliban and ISIS to fight and kill each other until none of them are left. And then whichever people are left, you can just make up some story and then carpet nuke them and get rid of them once and for all. So that's another brilliant way of destroying a religious extremist group. by turning different groups against one another. And like I said before, storytelling. If you use quantum supremacy AI, whenever that comes out in the future, you use that to create a brilliant story, or even just regular quantum AI you use to create a brilliant story. Not as brilliant as one of supremacy AI could create, but you create a brilliant genius story. You form your own little fake religious group. Then people believe it. They come into that religious group. That is a bastardized, different version of whatever real religion existed before. You use your fake religious sect, your fake religious group, to go against the other group, while at the same time running a government or some big society. And you don't have to take blame for your fake religious group killing and destroying that real religious group. Sorry for the speech impediment. But but yeah, so that's kind of what the CIA did with the Taliban. They funded the Taliban and are using it to destroy ISIS. And I think it's gone quite well, because both of those groups know the land, they know the people, they know the religious terminology and all that bullshit. Who cares? And so I think that was the best idea ever, helping the Taliban to destroy ISIS. And even though America and China are enemies, I think that with America and Russia, sort of being almost full on enemies at this point, I think we can both work together. I think we can both get along when it comes to ISIS, because of their mass murder attacks. Russia claimed it was Ukraine, but that was just a political tactic. That recent mass murder attack at that stadium, or that convention center, whatever it was in Russia. But basically, from what I've observed, when multiple countries get together and they fund a fake sect of a religious group, or a lesser powerful religious sect, and they make it more powerful, while at the same time crushing a threat that they have. Common enemy countries can come together, by destroying religious extremist groups, which there are always religious extremist groups everywhere. There's cartels and mafias and gangs, and especially the Mexican cartel is a huge enemy, which I think the United States and the Mexican government could come together to incinerate, completely carpet bomb and destroy, and rightfully so. And I think that's a great way to make the world a more peaceful, better place, is by finding a common religious or violent extremist corporate type entity. That's kind of what I see the cartel as. I see it as like a corporate extremist group, a corporate terrorist group, or corporate syndicate in a way. And so by finding common religious or monetary corporate syndicate groups, that you and another adversary country have enemies with, you view said syndicate or extremist religion as an enemy. You can work with your adversary, country, ally / enemy, and come together through finding a common enemy. And so, with Islam being the best example ever, Islam is an enemy of Russia, and Islam is an enemy of the United States, and Islam is an enemy of China. And Islam is an enemy of Israel, and Islam is an enemy of Australia, and Islam is an enemy of Europe. And if we could all come together and see Islam as the ultimate threat in the world currently, then we could wipe out Islam in a matter of like a year. It could probably take only a month if we put all of our military forces into destroying Islam, destroying the Mexican cartels, destroying the large crime syndicates around Russia and China. We could take them out in literally a matter of like a month. and become, you know, big allies in the process, like Russia and what is it? Russia and Europe, and Canada. These other countries became quite close allies with America. You know, when World War II occurred, and you know, Germany and Japan became somewhat close allies in World War II because of their common enemy. And so, if we could find a common enemy in, you know, things like Islam, and other satanic crime syndicates that, you know, murder people and do all sorts of things, I think we can make the world a much better place while making peace at the same time by making enemies and destroying them. Which in reality, Islam has always been an enemy of the human race as a whole, technically, but people have just allowed it because of its change. It's changed quite a bit, but it's still deep down a threat to all of humanity, all of society. And so Islam being a great example, if we could come against and warp it and create small religious sects that are against the true Islam, we could destroy it once and for all. So yeah, anyway, like, comment, subscribe. If you want to help me destroy ISIS and destroy the corrupt, evil Quran and Islam, let me know in the comment section down below. And check out my other videos. I make some great content. So yeah, that's all. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.